Hey, hey, hey. Good evening, everyone. It is so good to see you all. Ask the Doctors is back, and we're so happy that my friend Dr. Erica Draza is here with me. How you doing today, Erica?
I am doing well. How are you, Dr. Shepherd?
I'm doing wonderful. Happy New Year to
Yes,
you.
happy New Year to you. Entering into your 45th. Big
Oh,
gratitude
yes.
thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for making that announcement. Yes. Oh, I am not ashamed. And I'm thankful that so many have joined. Come on, hit us up in the comment section. Let us know that you're watching live. We are excited about today's broadcast. When you see me bending down and looking at my phones, because I'm sharing this broadcast, which is what I want you to do. I want you to go right now. If it's not on your personal page, go to my page and share it and make sure that you let someone know that Ask the Doctors is on live right now. I know some of you are going to go back and watch. I know some of you are going to go back and replay it over and over again because the information that we shared today can literally change your life. We're going to be talking about the mental crises of 2022. Now, I know some of that doesn't make sense. Dr. Shepard, it's only been 28 days into the beginning of 2022. But let me tell you, these 28 days have been full of mental health crises or crises. Yeah, more than one crisis. I'll say it like that. Uh, Let me share with you if you are alive right now, you know that it has been challenging for us. It has actually been a time where so many have been, even this week, challenged in their own way of thinking, survival. And my friend here, Dr. Draza, is going to help us in tackling some of these challenges. We're going to talk about some of the notable suicide completions and how to prevent that. We're going to talk about some of the deaths that we've seen in our police and firefighter forces. And then we're just going to talk about just some of the challenges that we're seeing on our institutions. So before delving in, Erica, why don't you just introduce yourself in case someone does not know who you are? You've been a constant fixture on this broadcast, but just in case someone doesn't know
Just in
who you are.
case. Yes. Well, thanks again for having me. My name is Dr. Erica Jarasa. I am a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist, and I practice at Catalyst Therapeutic Services in Durham, North Carolina. And in my spare time, I teach psych. Well, I used to teach psycho. Oh my gosh, I teach yoga classes. I love yoga, so I'm a yogini as well. But
A
in the
yogini.
yogini, yes.
Okay.
In the
Tell
past,
us
I
what
taught
that is.
cycle classes, and I've been thinking a lot about it because I miss in-person cycling. I really do. I miss in-person yoga. I miss in-person all of that. So, anyways, that's a little bit about me. I'm here in Durham, North Carolina.
Wow, wow, wow. Tell the people a little bit about where you trained at and what makes you such
Sure.
an expert in this particular field we're going to tackle
Okay.
today.
Okay. So we're
Uh-huh.
gonna go there. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I have to start with my alma mater. I went to Spelman College, so I don't know if there are any HBCU grads out here. I went to Spelman College, and then shortly after that, I went to Duke University, where I earned my doctorate in medicine. I got a master in public health at UNC Chapel Hill, and then finished up residency in child and adolescent psychiatry fellowship at Duke University and have been pretty much in the North Carolina system for 21 years now, which
Wow.
I can't even believe that. So yeah, that means I started, when I was like 10 or 11.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That means
Yeah.
we both are 10. Well, we started
Yeah,
with
we both started medical school at the age of 10, basically.
uh,
We're
oh,
geniuses.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So you see, well qualified, one who is aware of what's happening in today's society. So we're just going to start talking about how to tackle these mental health crises. I want to send a shout out to Dr. Malcolm and Dr. Kitchens. It is so good to see you all. These are people who I trust are doing well. And I mean, I think very highly of both of them. Dr. Draza, these are two of the people who I honored at the celebration back
Oh,
in
yeah.
December. Yeah, Dr.
Oh,
Marcus Kitchen, Dr. Letitia Malcolm. Yeah,
wow.
absolutely.
Yes, I see
Absolutely.
Letitia, HBCU represent.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, before we get started, come on, let us know that you are watching. Let us know that you are live with us. Share this, and we want to make sure that this goes as far as we're able to send it. So let's just talk about tackling Erica. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, can we get a reset? I feel like this was a trial period, this first 28 days of 2022. It's like, we need
you
a reset.
know, 30-day trial period, right? Right, yeah,
Exactly.
2 more days, 30-day trial.
But we wanna return it. We wanna return it. It's like, yeah, no, 0 stars. We want something new.
Well, let's look at it. The
Yeah.
suicides,
The
notable
suicides,
suicides.
yes.
Want to
I
start there?
know. Yeah, I mean, I know you guys are all familiar with Regina King, whose son unfortunately died by suicide, and then not even a week later, we hear about the mayor of Hyattsville, only 44 years old, who also died by suicide. And it's heartbreaking because I think we as providers know, that Black men struggle, but I think sometimes because of stigma, because of expectations that are placed on our Black men, we are not necessarily talking about and addressing mental health within that community, within Black men. And I think my heart just goes out to them because I wonder, like, were they able to get treatment? Were they able to get services? And it goes to show you can have all the resources available, right? You can have wealth and, fame and, you know, here he is the mayor, and still struggle with mental health, right? So it crosses all, genders, all races, socioeconomic status. And I think we just have to have some really open and honest conversations about mental health, especially in Black men. So,
So let's and thank you, Dr. Kitchens, for mentioning the word expectations. So let's just talk about that. The beginning of 2022 and most New Year's, we talk about what we expect. We talk about our goals. We talk about the achievements that we want to see happen in this year. We talk about the disappointments, what we want to do better. Health clubs, gym memberships go sky high in the month of January because everyone is ready to reset. We have these lofty expectations, but yet it's interesting that we're dealing with these crises
mhm,
because of either a lowering of expectations or I would submit to you missed expectations.
mhm,
And yes, we do see it in various different ethnic groups, but I don't want to go there just yet because I hear a budding another broadcast in there just going to be particular for Black men. But let's just talk about that. What happens when we have expectations of something, Dr. Draza, and they're not met, especially when we're ready and so excited to meet and embark on a new year.
yeah. Well, I think when those expectations aren't met, um, you are dealing with loss, right? You're
Mhm,
dealing with disappointment. You're dealing with sadness, grief,
mhm,
and sometimes that begins to become internalized, right?
mhm,
And then we start to maybe even doubt ourselves and think that, we're to blame, start being very critical of ourselves. So I think it can lead to a very dark path when we're dealing with expectations that aren't necessarily met, and I think sometimes it can be a source of I mentioned grief. It can be complicated grief, and sometimes even trigger for some people depressive symptoms.
mhm.
Um, so it. I think a lot of people are probably dealing with that in light of this pandemic, right? When we think about expectations that are placed on us to provide for our families, to have, good jobs, right, and to provide housing. We're hearing about people losing their jobs and losing housing and not really getting the opportunities that they expected they would have maybe at this time in their lives. Um,
Hmm.
Pandemic has really taken so much from people and has left people in a very empty space, I think. And there's
Hmm.
some folks who I think are able to rise above it and to say, okay, let's be creative. But for those who have tried and tried and tried, and they're just met with, one challenge after another, sometimes it can ultimately lead to a place of hopelessness.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. This is good. This is good. I want you to take note, Dr. Dreiser.
Mhm.
Mr. Romel Cummings is out there, and here's a question. I want you to think about this question because I'm going to deal a little bit about expectations. I'm going to say a little bit more about that. But he wants us to talk about what the success rates of a suicide risk screening is, and so that's an excellent point. I want you to think about that. But what I want to challenge people is expectations. Expectations are things that either you put on yourself or may be placed upon you. I know that sounds so simple, but
Yeah.
honestly, we need to deal with those two categories of expectations
Mhm.
because there are expectations that I put on myself as a person that may not be what society or my organization or even my family puts on me. I hope you hear me on that
Yeah.
because that is very important. There
Mhm.
are things that even if you are not experiencing so much distress in your mental well-being and you're not disordered, but yet because you have these expectations of yourself that no one else has said you have to do, Jonathan. No one else has said that this is what is required of you. And
Mhm.
because there is this imbalance of what is expected of me versus what I'm able to do and of what society may be saying that I should be doing. Let me tell you, that is so important because when I am expected to do something, whether it be a job, whether it be a responsibility, whether a task or assignment that is handed out to me, there are things that I want to do my way, and there may be things that I've come to find out that actually they need to be done a certain way, and somehow I have to figure out how my way meets up with what someone else or what the organization has required of me to do. Why am I staying here on this? Because we, in this era that we're living in, there are certain expectations that are placed on people that we may not even know of. I really think about those two individuals that we talked about. I wonder what heaviness did they carry. I wonder what type of expectations it must have been to walk in the shadow of a famous producer such as Regina King. We never would know that.
Mhm.
Um, there may have been things that this gentleman and please, Erica, remind me. I forget his name because I hate to say the
Gosh.
same.
Um,
So someone out there just comment real quick and research
Kevin
that
Ward.
too.
Kevin Ward.
Kevin Ward. There we go. All right. So Mr. Kevin Ward. Yeah, uh, you never know what expectations were put on him. You know, and then the mayor of of Hyattsville. Again, Google his name and comment and let
Oh,
me
that's
know.
who I always thought you were talking about. That's who
Oh,
Kevin Ward.
Kevin Ward. Kevin, right. Okay. All right. No, I want to know the son of Regina King. And
Yeah.
Kevin Ward, right, was the mayor of Hyattsville. So thank you for correcting me on that. So someone in the comments or just Google that real quick and let me know. But the expectations of a mayor in a prominent city such as Hyattsville. Hyattsville is heard of here in Maryland, right outside of DC. It's really considered a suburb of DC. And to have the expectation of a family, of being a husband, a father, things like that, and yet being a governmental official, those things weigh heavy. Why am
Mm.
I staying here? I know where I am. I'm staying here because I want you to think about your expectations this year for 2022. What are these expectations that people are putting on you? Are they ones that you should have? Or are they ones that you need to really re examine and say, maybe not this year? or maybe we need to switch it up and change it up. Because when you're not able to manage the expectations that are handling you, they start to manage you. I say it again. If when you're not handling the expectations, they'll start to manage you if you don't know how to manage them. And
Mm.
really, that's a great segue into what's happening with these suicide rates that we're seeing, because there's a lot of expectations that people have of themselves. And honestly, they just are not managing them well and find themselves going into depression. And when you're depressed, you are at a higher risk of suicidality. Higher risk of suicidality means that you're at a higher risk of actually making a suicidal attempt. And make a suicidal attempt, then you're at an increased risk of actually completing that suicide. You see the trajectory there. So, Erica, come on, let's jump in. Talk. Let's talk about these suicide screenings, and I know you've done quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, yeah, so that is a big part of our role as psychiatrists is to screen for suicidality, to determine what puts an individual at increased risk for completing a suicide. Of course, we can never truly predict, so I think, and the other challenge is we are not always able to assess everyone who is experiencing suicidal thoughts or what we call suicidal ideation. So if you're, not necessarily getting them in the door or on the screen into your telemedicine sessions, then you are missing a big chunk of people. But for those who do present to whether it's a psychiatrist, a social worker, or a therapist, there are assessments that we will do to determine if they're at risk. So what are those things that we look for? Any previous history of psychiatric illness. So Dr. Shepard already mentioned one, which is depression. That's probably the most common psychiatric condition that we associate with suicide. But there are several other psychiatric conditions that can lead to an individual wanting to or feeling the need to take their life. That's other mood disorders such as bipolar disorder. Schizophrenia has a high risk of suicide completions. Individuals with eating disorders. And thank you, somebody put in the chat, Ian Alexander. Yes.
Hmm.
Thank you for the name because we
Hmm.
definitely want to make sure we honor him.
That's right.
Um, but individuals suffering from eating disorders, that actually has one of the highest prevalence of suicide completions in all of psychiatry.
Wow.
And then looking at other types, second to opiate use, of course. So substance use disorders, whether that's alcohol, opiate use, marijuana use. There are people who, when they are under the influence of weed, that they may start to have thoughts like that because weed is by default, biologically and chemically, it is a depressant. So there are lots of different conditions. So that's one thing that we look for. We also look for any previous family history of completed suicide. So that's important for us to make sure we're talking to our family members, right? To our parents, to our aunts and uncles and grandparents. Start having these conversations. Hey, what's our family history of? We usually talk about, cancer and breast cancer and hypertension, heart disease. But I think we really need to be sure we're asking our families, okay, what do we have in our family history in terms of psychiatric conditions? Did anyone
Mm.
in our family ever complete suicide? Because if there's a family history of that, that can increase our risk as well. Being I mentioned substance use, so being acutely intoxicated is a risk factor. And then, of course, previously engaging in behaviors and suicidal behaviors or making attempts in the past. And then, of course, I can't forget having access to lethal means. So if there's a gun in a home or there are other lethal means in a home, then that can also be a risk factor. So when a professional is going to make sure, really, with every single individual that we screen and treat, to make sure that we're looking for that. I forgot to mention PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorders. So there are lots of other things besides depression. Depression's a big one, but there are lots of other psychiatric disorders that can cause a person to engage in that kind of behavior. But I think the other thing that is really important is, again, hopelessness. That's
Mm,
something we ask all of our patients. When you're getting to a place where you are feeling hopeless, and not only that, but where you're actually having a hard time seeing your future. So when
mm,
people start talking about not having a hope for their future, not, not wanting to see having anything to live for, not feeling like they have anything to live for, then those can pose that can be posed to be a risk as well. But I want to make sure I highlight the other thing that's really important, which is protective factors. That's also a part of our assessment. We want to make sure we're asking, what are the things that are going to help you to stay safe, right? So, do you have a good source of support? Whether that's family members, a spouse, friends, having a pet. My pet is knocked out on my lap right now, but having a pet can be a protective factor. Even if you do have a psychiatric condition, and we know 1 out of 5 adults are, or actually now 1 out of 4 adults at any point
before, yeah.
psychiatric condition at any point in their lives. So if you have adequate treatment for your psychiatric condition, then that can be protective. If there are things that you are looking forward to doing, things that, a sense of purpose, those can all be protective factors. Spirituality, if you're plugged in spiritually, that can also be a protective factor. So there are things that I think can help protect us from engaging in those kind of behaviors and ultimately dying by suicide. And unfortunately, we still see and we're seeing higher and higher rates. I'm going to be really interested to see the new data that comes out about suicide rates over the course of this pandemic. We have
Mm,
early data showing that the rates are increasing steadily, particularly among children and adolescents, Black boys. The rates of suicide are increasing exponentially. And I think it's because of one, there's a lot of stigma still, and I'm grateful for this platform so that we can actually talk about mental health and have real and open and honest conversations. But you talked about expectations, Dr. Shepherd, and I think about
mhm,
expectations on some individuals to not even talk about their feelings,
mm,
to shove their feelings inside and to feel ashamed if they're feeling sad or feeling down, especially if they feel like, oh, I have everything given to me. I have all these opportunities. I'm doing really well in my career. Why am I feeling this way? And they may start to feel shame and doubt and guilt and internalize that and not feel that it's safe to talk about their feelings or to talk about the fact that they're having thoughts about dying because
mhm,
that's very much frowned upon,
mhm,
especially in our community where, you hear some churches even saying it's a sin, that if you die, complete suicide, back in the day, you used to hear the language commit suicide. We try not to use that language
mhm,
anymore. But there
mhm,
are some people still teaching that if you die by suicide, that means you're going to hell. So what do people
mhm,
say? They say, well, if I'm having thoughts like that means I'm not having faith. I shouldn't be sharing those kinds of thoughts. I'm just going to keep it to myself, and then we suffer in silence, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
that's where the support is really, really important. If that person doesn't have adequate support where they can be open and honest and real with what's really going on, that's a risk factor. So
mhm.
long answer. It's
No, no,
complicated, but I wanted to just paint a picture as to what we really look for when we do
absolutely.
assessment.
No, and no, it requires time. I think many times we forget that in our profession, we need time.
Mhm.
You know, it takes time. You didn't just become depressed overnight.
That's right. Yeah.
I tell people, don't rush me through my assessments. You didn't you didn't just get here overnight. So why you gonna rush me? You got
Yes.
years of this trauma, you got years of abuse, you got years of this. And then,
Mhm.
well, we gotta be done in 30 minutes. Okay, I don't think so. Or even an hour. Many times I can't even get, scratch the surface in even an hour because
Yes.
it takes the time to be able to do what is needed in order for we can get down to really what is the root issue. So no, you take your time.
My
It is
assessments are 90 minutes, so I need a lot of time, and sometimes I'm still not done.
yeah, yeah. I've actually had up to 90 minutes too
Yeah,
during the
yeah,
pandemic.
Yeah.
because if we're doing telehealth, we got to get everybody set up. We got to get everybody make sure that you're comfortable. And I just told the people today who work in our front office at Hope Health Systems that we have to be ready for this onslaught. We have to get ready for the complexity. Oh,
Mhm.
there's a dog.
Yeah.
Hey,
Name is
and
Theo.
oh, he must have woke up.
He woke up.
But I was just telling him we have to prepare for the complexity of the cases that are coming in because they are much more complex than what was happening. So no, absolutely, it takes time, and so hopefully you all heard these things. You heard some of the things to look out for, and I want to tell people, even as a leader, even as a physician, even as one who provides care, we have to be on the lookout for ourselves
Yeah. Yeah.
because we are just
Absolutely.
as at risk, or even sometimes even more at risk. All right, you agree with me? I know.
He's
Yeah,
like, hallelujah. And dog and bark.
yeah. Uh, so he's in agreement with me. But I tell you,
Agreement. I'm a
yeah.
mute.
Oh wow. So he has. So when you are when you're one who has great expectations on you, and you have one that has a lot of responsibilities, a lot of assignments, a lot of tasks, you are definitely at risk of being depressed. You're definitely at risk of having those thoughts of not wanting to be here or being overwhelmed and ended up taking your life. That's where we found Kevin Ward at, you
Yeah.
know.
And there
Uh,
are high rates, like you said, amongst physicians, nurses,
mhm.
think about who's at the front line of this pandemic, right? When we think about the emergency medicine folks, doctors and nurses and, techs, respiratory techs, and, everyone who's on these front lines, EMS, critical care, um, some of them are really struggling, and
Yeah,
I think we have already seen that physicians and medical professionals can have high rates as well. But I think again, we're probably going to get some data showing that those rates are increasing with this pandemic. Just
yeah.
because they are on the front lines and they're experiencing trauma every day. I have friends who've told me, I had 7 people die today from COVID, you know,
Wow.
and just imagine the trauma, imagine the numbing, right, that
Mhm.
comes from treating one person after another and losing so many individuals. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, which really leads us now into some of the other things that have happened. There's two major things. We have to be aware that the Surgeon General, the U.S. Surgeon General, has already sounded the alarm that we are embarking on a mental health crisis for children in this country.
Yeah.
If you don't believe me, go Google it right now and look at Surgeon General mental health crisis children. It will be the first thing that pops up. Why am I saying this? Is because we have to be ready.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready, oh well, it's here. Um,
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
really is here. And so our children are experiencing rates of mental health disorders, as Erica said, at unprecedented volume
Mhm.
that we have never seen before. And so we've got to get geared up. I know I have some educators out there, some teachers out there. We have some mental health professionals, doctors, lawyers. We got to get parents, mothers, fathers. We got to get geared up. We got to get ready. The second thing is you're talking about frontline workers. Here in Maryland, we had a couple of disasters within the last month. This past week,
Maryland, you guys have been going through. I mean, Maryland has been, and the whole DMV has been in the news a
it
lot this week.
has. It
Yeah.
has. It has. Maryland has suffered in Baltimore. 3 firefighters on Monday died while fighting a fire.
That is
Yep,
like
yep,
heartbreaking.
yep.
Yeah.
The building collapsed. And I knew something was wrong when they kept going back to it, and the fire captain releasing tweets. That's never a good sign.
Right.
And yeah, 3 firefighters lost their lives. Again, we're talking about frontline workers and people
Mhm.
who are trying to assist.
Right.
Even in the beginning, expectations. Young people, in their 20s,
Oh,
who great expectations of want to help people.
Right.
Last month, we had the police officer shot and killed in her police cruiser
Mm,
on overtime. She was working on a day that she wasn't even supposed to work, and
wow.
someone came up and cowardly shot her and
Wow.
killed her.
Wow.
And again, Baltimore, DMV area. And then on top of that, I'm not just trying to. I know somebody was like, man, he must
Like,
be
this is
he came ready. No, I told you we're going to tackle these crises because as we move from this, Doctor Draws, I have the 10 sets of things or 10 steps that we need to do to reset manually, and we will go through that. We're not going to sit here and just talk about the problems. We're going to tackle this thing. And when I
figure
say
out how to get
tackle,
through
we're
it.
going to wrestle with it and we're
Yeah.
going to get reset. All right. But the last thing I wanted to say is that Maryland, we had the deadliest month since the pandemic in
Wow.
January of 2022. This state experienced more death from the pandemic in the current month that we're in than any other month since the pandemic started.
Wow.
That's how bad Maryland was affected by what happened with Omicron. I know they're talking about Omicron don't kill people. Well, let me tell you, that's not the truth. All right.
Yes. Can we fact
Omicron,
check that? I mean, goodness, people are like, "Oh, don't worry about it." No. Why are hospitalization rates at the highest they've ever been? The ICUs are full. People are still dying from this thing, y'all. So please wear your mask. Go get boosted. Go get vaccinated, please.
absolutely. And if you need to hear about that, you can go back and watch our show from the 7th of January,
All
where
right.
Dr. Queen was on here. As you know her, Dr.
Okay,
Jessica
yeah.
Queen, she was on here. So
Oh,
we
she's
talked about that.
amazing. Yes,
Yes, she
please go back
is.
and watch
Yep,
that.
yep. So I don't want to repeat that, but I'm just telling you, Maryland has been through something in these 28 days. And so wherever you are, I'm sure that you are thinking about, man, how do we tackle these crises? And so, Dr. Draws, I'm going to just go through some of these steps. I'm going to just give one or two at a time. And I want you to comment on them. We'll go back and forth. And I
I'm
want you to jot them
here.
down, okay? And as I'm doing this, I'll put them in the comments. I wanted to keep us live. I didn't want to put a slide up, but I just wanted you to hear them. All right. These are 10 steps to reset mentally. All right. These are 10 steps that you need to do to reset mentally. 28 days, 30-day trial is up. Yes, 2 more days. This is what you do to reset. All
Reset.
right.
Right, push that
Reset.
button.
All right. Number one, we already talked about it. You need to have communication with God. Prayer. All right. Prayer is communication with God. Now, I can hear somebody. I thought this is a scientific show, and not. It is a scientific show, but I have to be who I am, and I also have to be scientific because scientifically, when you look at the data, and Dr. Draza can back me up, when a person invokes their spirituality and their religion into their treatment, there are better outcomes.
Yeah.
Period. All right. We've seen that across the board. And so, how is it that we in psychiatry neglect that? Absolutely not. You need to be able to meditate and be able to have communion with the God that you serve. And so, prayer is absolute and it helps to calm you down. It helps to set the stage for your inner being because a lot of this stuff that we're talking about expectations, mental health awareness, mental well-being is not seen on the outside. It's got nothing to do with your physical body either. It's a lot about what has to do on the inside and how we set our mindsets. So prayer helps that. All right. Number two, and then I'm gonna let you comment, is learn relaxation breathing.
Mhm.
So as you are praying, learn how to calm yourself down. When you around here overwhelmed and the people getting on your nerves and your children getting on your nerves and you can't stand your family members and oh my God, I'm watching the news and all this, go somewhere and learn how to breathe. And when you breathe, pay attention to when you inhale and when you exhale. And just doing that just 3 different times will help calm you down to where, wow, I feel better. So comment on some of those things.
Yeah,
Prayer, relaxation, breathing.
ab
Yeah, Dr.
well,
Jarza.
Well, as we talked about, the protective factors, right? Being tied to your spirituality. So, whatever that looks like for you can absolutely be a protective factor. And that's going to absolutely help, like Dr. Jonathan said, for you to tap into just another source of power, right? Helps us to feel empowered when we're able to tap into that spiritual side of ourselves. The other part, relaxation, breathing, yes, that is one aspect of what we call mindfulness. So, develop a mindfulness practice, which can include relaxation and deep breathing. And there are a host of other mindful practices that you can start to do. So, for instance, meditation. And I hear a lot of people say, I just don't know how to meditate. I'm not good at that. No one's good at it. That's why it's called a practice, practice and and guided meditation could be helpful too if that's something that you're not comfortable doing, just sitting in silence. Most people aren't. Then maybe doing a guided meditation or doing some other mindful practice. And if you Google or YouTube or download any app that's geared towards mental wellness, you will see lots of different guided meditations or other types of breathing exercises. There's a lot of different kinds of deep breathing exercises that can be really helpful in calming us down. And we know that those two things that you highlighted, there have been studies looking at prayer, meditation, mindfulness practice in terms of reducing stress and also improving health outcomes. So not just mental health. I know we're talking about mental health today, but those practices actually can lead to decreased rates of hypertension and can lead to decreased migraines, even cancer, so
That's right.
being able to develop some sense of prayer, meditation, deep breathing, mindful practice can be very beneficial for your overall health.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's wonderful.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
grab
keep
my
moving.
dog before he barks more. I'll be back.
Okay. Number three, we're going to highlight using your shower time. What does that mean? Utilizing your shower time. Utilizing your shower time means that when you are away from hopefully everyone, hopefully people are not barging in your shower.
If so, that's a whole nother episode we need to talk about.
Oh my God, yeah. If people are barging in while you taking a shower, yeah, you can put a lock, barricade that door. But yeah, use your shower time. I utilize that time many times. The thoughts that I have for the day, I've developed various projects. Even some things that I will relate to on this program have been developed. Even that I've shared in various settings have occurred while in the shower, and I've been able to um, maximize that. And then once I get out, I go and write it down so I don't forget it. You know, so I love that because when you're there, the water itself is a purifier. Water itself is cleansing. But what you also have to know about water, which is why people listen to it, it actually clears your mind. It settles you. Why do you think people like to listen to running water? Why do people like to walk along a brook or a river? Because they like that sound of that water. And when water comes, it's a purifier, it's a cleanser. It also helps to settle your spirit. And in the Christianity faith, water is actually talked about quite a bit as a symbol of God's Holy Spirit. And so we want to make sure that water is highlighted more than just drinking it. We need to make sure that the significance and the power of water. The next one is then prioritizing exercise and physical movement. I'm gonna stop there, Dr. Draza. You tackle those two:
Yeah,
shower time and prioritizing
yeah.
exercise and physical movement.
Yes, well, I love the shower time because I think of that as like an opportunity for self-care and even extending that to, you know, what kind of soap you're using and oils and, is there some aromatherapy? And that's something that, when we think about calming our mind, we want to incorporate all of our senses. So in terms of what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're smelling, right? So it's an opportunity, I think, to incorporate at least a couple of your senses to really learn how to be present. And that's what a mindful practice is at the end of the day. So we're talking about showering, but I see that also in the same bucket as meditation and deep breathing because it is mindful. It's a mindful practice. We're learning how to really just be present in that moment. Our mind is usually in the past or in the future. We're thinking about all the things we got to do or the things we just did and criticizing ourselves sometimes for some of it. But
Right.
really just learning how to just be in the moment, to be present. And then,
Mhm.
of course, body movement. I love body movement. So I'm not a fan of calling it exercise just because I think exercise can have a negative connotation for some people, especially with the new
Okay.
year. People set resolutions that, okay, I'm going
Mhm.
to exercise X amount of day, per week. And then they don't.
Mhm.
And then they feel
Mhm.
guilty and then they beat
Mhm.
themselves up. And then exercise no longer becomes fun. But think
Wow.
about body movement as just that. It's an opportunity to get your body moving, to do something where your blood is circulating, where your body is releasing those natural endorphins, right? So, and you don't have to think about the typical ways people exercise. Now, I do love going to the gym and I love lifting heavy and I love all of that. But some people just don't. Find out what it is you like. Is that walking?
Mhm.
Is that dancing? I
Mhm.
am I am a fan, and I did this during the pandemic when I couldn't go to the gym. I would find my favorite choreographer, like Beyonce's choreographer, and I would just learn choreography.
Come on here.
Dance for like an hour, and I'm like, wow, I don't know how Beyonce does this all day because I did it for an hour and I'm about to die. But it's fun, right? Another thing I
Wow.
picked up was jump roping.
Mm.
It makes me feel like a kid again, and it's really good for the heart rate and it's fun. So whatever that might be, if it's Zumba, if it's, playing tennis, it doesn't necessarily have to be what you traditionally think as exercise. You want to just get your body moving. It could be hula hooping for all I care. Just get your body moving. So,
That's
and that's
right.
to again release those natural endorphins and just make you feel good. And it's good for your heart, it's good for your mind, it's good for your brain, it's good for everything. So,
Okay. I'm gonna tackle number 5, then I'm gonna let you tackle number 6. Number 5 is maintain a proper sleep schedule.
oh
So
yeah.
sleep
Mhm.
is wonderful. Sleep is when you reset. Your body was made to reset every day. Your body was made to reset every day. I'll say it one more time. Your body was made to reset every day, and that is through sleep. If you do not sleep, your brain cannot recharge itself. It's like leaving your phone off its charger and you expecting for it to be working at the same capacity as it was when it was fully charged. It will not. And so that's why sleep is important. We have to get back onto our sleep schedules. I tell people it takes a few weeks if you're off your sleep schedule to get back on because sleep is a habitual act. So if you're always getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to watch TV and eat and stuff like that, and you expect for you to be able to go back to bed and wake up on time and you're just full of energy, it's just not going to happen. So we have to figure out ways in which you can go to bed, stay asleep, and get your 8 hours of rest. It's also known to flush out the toxins that are in your brain so that you can decrease your risk of having dementia, decrease your risk of having memory impairments. And then as you're flushing out your brain, it allows for new growth to occur. And again, these clinical trials and data and publications that have come out with this. Yeah, you might say, well, Dr. Shepard, that doesn't sound so substantial. Only 10% risk is or even 30%. Let me tell you, I want every percent I can get. you know, I want to make sure that I'm living as long as possible. And when you do that, you actually decrease your rates of heart disease, obesity, and then actually decrease your risk of mental health disorders. So that's maintaining proper sleep schedule. 8 hours of sleep doesn't really matter your age. I will just say this: for as you get older, you may not have as many opportunities for deep sleep. So you may wake up a little bit more, but still, as you are napping, still get the rest that you need. All right. Number six, so we can keep it moving, is eat healthy as often as you can. I know Dr. Draza. She eats healthy as often as she can.
And I will say this because, again, I think sometimes, especially in the new year, we hear a lot of diet talk, right? And, going on this diet, going on that diet, which I think can sometimes be dangerous because we're setting ourselves up sometimes for unrealistic expectations. Sometimes dieting can actually be very unhealthy. So, what I encourage folks to do is to really examine our relationship to food, and we want to have a healthy, rather than, okay, I want to eat healthy, let's focus on having a healthy relationship with food, which means
Mhm.
yeah, we need the greens and we need vegetables and we need the vitamins and all of that we could get through fruits and vegetables. And it's okay if every now and then you want to, celebrate and have some cookies and have cake. We want to be very careful of what I see sometimes in American diet culture of all or nothing approach to food, which is very
Mm.
it kind of set us up for failure sometimes and can lead to disappointment, can lead to actually overeating, or can lead to other types of eating disorders. So let's
Wow.
focus on balance and having an appropriate relationship to our food. That also means being mindful, right, of how we're um, getting nourishment for ourselves. Being mindful of the connections. Are we noticing that we're snacking a lot when we're bored? Are we noticing
Mm.
that we're eating emotionally? Well, we may want to
Mm.
check ourselves to find out, okay, why am I reaching for this food? Perhaps
Mm.
sad and down. Can I validate that feeling and think of other ways to address
Mm.
the feeling? So it's, again,
Good.
what is our relationship to food?
Good. Very good. Very good. Very good. We're going to keep moving here. Number seven, number eight. Number seven is stay socially connected. I'm gonna
Yeah.
let Dr. Draza take that one too. She loves to stay socially connected.
I do. I'm so blessed, and I realize I am blessed, right? Because I have amazing family and friends from so many different circles. And I think being socially connected means having people that you can trust. Fortunately, I have a lot of people in my life where I can depend on them, but there are some people that you may only have one or two trusted individuals in your life, and that's okay. It's not about quantity, excuse me. It's about quality of relationships. So
Mhm.
it's not about how many friends you have, it's how many of those friends you know are ride or die friends who have your back, who aren't going to judge you, but allow you to have a safe space for you to be yourself, to be open and honest, to talk about the times when you're struggling and when you're not, and to celebrate your success too, right? So we need people in our corner who could say, "No, you got this. You could do this." And that's why I'm so grateful for Dr. Shepherd, Dr. Griffin, who's not with us tonight, Marilyn Griffin. But we do that. We'll have calls with each other and say, "Okay, what are your goals? What are y'all working on? How can we support each other? Let's bounce ideas off each other." And we need that support. We need to be connected. I think sometimes what can happen when we're dealing with depression, when we're dealing with grief or loss or even trauma, we pull in, we isolate.
Mhm.
And that can
Mhm.
be very, very dangerous because what can happen is the thoughts that go on, those recordings in our mind can be very negative and they start to play on repeat. And then
Mhm.
next thing you know, we start internalizing a lot of negative narratives that sometimes
Mm.
our friends are able to check for us, right? To
Mhm.
say, okay, you didn't make this goal yet, but let's think about it this way. Let's think about it in another creative way. How can we help you get through this? Right? So
Right.
that's what's important.
Absolutely. Very, very good. I just want to comment on something that Rhonda Hayes mentioned. Yes, there are people out there who work third shift, and I know that's very complicated. And, for those who work that shift, their sleep patterns can be off because normally, we're not meant, I won't say we're not meant, but normally our bodies are not adjusted to working in the middle of the night, between that 11 to 7 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Shift. And so let me just tell you though about sleep. Okay. Sleep is something that you cannot make up. I'll say that again. People think that you can make up sleep. You don't make up sleep. I know you've heard it. Okay, I want to sleep all weekend. I'm going to make it up. You don't make up sleep. Okay? I just want people to understand that sleep is not made up. What happens is your body is so tired that literally it will shut down and will cause you to go to sleep, even when you don't want to. Your body was created in such a way that it has sensors in itself that knows if you keep pushing me another mile or whatnot, I literally will shut down on you. And
Mhm.
so that's what's happening when when you find yourself sleeping so much. Okay. And let me tell you too, you have to be careful how much you push yourself. So when we work those hours, you have to learn how to set those healthy boundaries to say, this is my set of time when, yes, I typically may be awake, but I have to get some sleep. You can't work third shift and then you talking about going to bed at 5 o'clock and waking back up 4 or 5 hours later. You
Yeah.
just won't be any good. All
And
right.
hey, no shame. I hear people like, "That's me, that's me." I see y'all in the chats. It's all good. We all have times like that. And guess what? Every day is a new opportunity. We're talking about what? Resetting. Every day is a new opportunity to reset and set goals for yourself. If you're working third shift, what systems, what things do you need to put in place so that you can get adequate sleep during the day? Which, does that mean we need blackout curtains? Does that mean we need to take
Mhm.
maybe a little bit of melatonin, which is a natural vitamin our body makes that helps us to reset when we have to work those night shifts? Setting, time, goals for the same time you want to go to bed, same time you want to get up in the morning. Trying to avoid napping, so there's a lot of data and research that's been done about what we call sleep hygiene. And if you're
Mhm.
struggling with sleep, I would encourage you to just Google sleep hygiene and you will see a whole host of things. For instance, not staying in bed with on your phone scrolling. I mean, you may be
Absolutely.
wanting to listen to us, of course, right before you
Ah,
yeah, we wouldn't recommend it right before you go to bed, maybe like an hour before.
that's right. That's
Setting
right.
down, your phone and your iPads and your computer at least an hour before, listening to something calming,
Mhm.
making sure you don't work in the place that you sleep,
That's
keeping
right.
those areas separate.
And that's why so many people have had sleep problems. I had to go back to that because I knew people are
Yeah.
struggling with that. And
Yeah.
and that's and Rhonda, that's why I was saying that sleep is a habit. Your body's used to it. And
Yeah.
if you're going to break a habit, that means that you have to have the mindset that you want to be over it, and then you have to practice it consistently.
Yeah.
When you're changing course, you just can't change course unless you have a mindset change.
Yeah.
All right. I'll say it again. You can't just change course and yet you still operating with the same mindset. It won't work. And so many of us, we just want to change course and our mindset hasn't changed. We have to change our mindset. And you can change your mindset. Yes, you can. You have to make a determination that this will no longer be me.
Yeah.
And so once you do that, then you have to practice it consistently, and then it will develop into a healthy lifestyle for you. And in addition to that, that's how you practice kindness. That has to be a healthy lifestyle. We have to practice how to be nice to people,
Mhm.
especially when people are not nice to us. And let me tell you, right now, society has been really cruel to people. I'm working and I'm learning on forgiveness. I'm reading a book called Total Forgiveness, and that's part of practicing kindness, knowing how to be able to let peace enter in as opposed to resentment and bitterness.
Yeah.
If you're going to reset, let me tell you, some of this depression that is on us now is because we have so much bitterness inside of us and we have not been practicing kindness. And that unresolved resentment, bitterness will manifest as depression. So we have to think about that. I can't go into it all because some of you all need to come on in and get some one-on-one care.
Mhm.
Yes, I said it. No matter what level you're at, you need to get some one-on-one care so we can get down to the root of where some of this depression is. But when we talk about unforgiveness and not being able to be in the same room with people, having to, oh, I just can't stand her. Oh, I can't stand. Oh, he just did my children wrong. And you all been broken up for 10 years now. And yet every time you see his name, it just makes your skin crawl. It's time to come on in. It's time to come on in. I'm gonna say it again.
Mhm.
Every time you see her, ooh, it's time to come on in so we can get this one-on-one mental health, so we can get developed and move past that. Because that's how you reset. That's how you allow peace to come in when you're ready to let go of that bitterness, and then practice the kindness. That's where I was. Practice the
Mhm.
kindness that it takes so that you can continue to show my mental well-being is more important than me holding on to something that the other person don't forget. And many times you don't forget how it went down too.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh wow, I know I'm talking in here.
I just wanna add though, practicing kindness, we need to reflect that to ourselves too. How many
Absolutely.
times have you noticed negative self-talk in your mind? Would you
Absolutely.
say that out loud to your best friend? Would you say that
Wow.
out loud to your
Come on
mother?
here.
Would you say that out loud to your child?
Come on
Right?
here.
Mindful of the narrative again, the negativity that's going on inside. Dr. Shepherd talk about the mindset. Well, that kindness applies to you. Maybe
Mhm.
you've done some things in the past that you're ashamed of. Maybe you've made some mistakes, right? Maybe you've had some failures. That's okay. We don't have to live in the past. We could be kind. We could forgive ourselves. We can forgive
Mhm.
ourselves and we can be kind to ourselves, right? So practice that inward kindness as well, which also includes all the things we've been talking about. Sleeping, taking care of our bodies, being a good steward of our temple, those of our mind, right? Taking good care of ourselves is an act of self-kindness.
Mhm. Absolutely. And again, Rhonda, we reach out to you. She mentions how she lost her son about 5 years ago to death, and still painful. And yes, that's normal to still be painful. One of the things I will work with you on today, I want to say to you, think about how you want to celebrate that day.
That's right.
Be thoughtful. Think ahead. I know some people don't. They don't like to think about that. I just what happens, whatever happens. Well, no. When you say stuff like that, that's why you get the results that you get. I just let it happen. That's what. No, think about what you want. Um, some people might say, "Well, you just, you're not spontaneous. You're not." No, honestly, many times you need to be intentional when you're
Mhm.
looking to get a result. There needs to be some intentionality behind why you are feeling better, or why you're feeling worse, or why nothing has changed, or why something has changed. You want to be intentional about that. So I hear you. So hopefully some of these things you can utilize, Rhonda, and others out there to help you as you prepare for certain anniversaries. We're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of being a part of this pandemic, and some of us thought we would be long over this,
Yeah.
and no, we're not. And so for that, even some people are very depressed, very sad, and just, I just can't take it no more, and just kind of throw caution to the wind. Well, I want you to pick back up that caution so that we can continue to persevere and tackle this crisis that is occurring right now. We have just two more things and we're going to be done. This has been awesome. I love the comments, I love the engagement. Two more things. Number 9 is just get things done. When you put your mind to it, let's not just be talkers about it. Let's show some action. Let's get things done, and be okay if it doesn't get done within the time frame that you wanted to get done in. Oh, I'm learning that one right now, actually.
Me too.
Um, Yeah,
Mhm.
Erica mentioned how old I was, and by this time,
Well,
I
it
thought
is
that
on your social media. That's the only
oh,
reason.
no, 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 I'm not coming for you. I'm not coming for. I'm just saying there were some things that I had about 10 years ago that I said by this time I wanted to already have obtained. Let me tell you, I'm okay with it because there's some things I didn't think that I would obtain that I actually did obtain, and I'm okay with it. So I know that timing is good, but I also look back at the list of things that I wanted to do, and I'm able to check off. most, if not all, of those things. So you want to get things done, and be realistic about it. Let me talk about that just real quick. You know, I just want to get my degree. Wait a minute, you ain't been in school in how long?
Mhm.
You haven't counted up the cost, and you haven't set aside. I just want to get my degree. I just want to be smart. I want to wait a minute. Let's sit down and let's break things down to see what that looks like before just going off and just applying for something. Uh, Go talk to somebody. Go find out what is it that you want to do. Find out what that application looks like. When you get things done, that means that you are assessing what the goal is, assessing what the task is, assessing what the responsibilities are, so that you can get the end result. All right, I talked enough about that. Number 10, take us out of here, Erica. This is taking a break from news. That's
Oh,
what
yeah.
number 10 is.
I think taking a break from news, taking a break from social media can be really useful. Taking a break because, again, there can be a lot. The news is just filled with so much negativity. Every now and then you may hear a good little cute, sweet story. You're like, oh, that's sweet. And then it's back to the negativity. But we have to protect our minds. And I think that's really where that is coming from, right? And we have to make sure that we are guarding our hearts and our minds from things that can be overwhelming, right? And we've been confronted with a lot in the news, seeing Black people die every day, being confronted with all the ways that systemic racism continues to impact us as Black people, seeing again suicides and people, firefighters dying, and now this whole situation with Russia. I mean, it's never
Wow.
ending. It's never
Wow.
ending, and it can lead to a lot of anxiety. It can lead to a lot of fear. It can lead to downright depression and sadness, and again, hopelessness. Right. So we want to protect our brain. Sometimes, sometimes I'll just recommend to folks like give yourself a time limit. And if you need to stay on top of the news, maybe read it. Read the news, and give yourself maybe 5-10 minutes to peruse it, and then let it go. The same with social media. I think social media is a blessing, right? Because it really did provide an opportunity for us to connect during this pandemic. But there are also things that can be challenging. And I think comparisons can get in the way. We see, like Dr. Shepard was saying, we think, okay, by this age, I want to do this, this, that, and that. And we're seeing all of our friends and colleagues doing those things, and maybe we're not doing them yet. And then we feel like, oh man, I'm not meeting the mark, and start experiencing self doubt, really making those comparisons, or just using it as an outlet to not deal with things that we need to deal with, right? It could be a distraction at times
Mhm.
and get in the way of the things that really have more meaning for us, right?
Mhm.
So protecting our minds from that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. Oh, wow. This is awesome. We're going to wrap up here. I'm going to do something that I have not done, and we're going to continue to do that on Ask the Doctors. I want you to share this. I think I have just about 5 shares thus far. I would love to get another 5, and we're going to continue to increase that. If you're watching right now, if you have not shared, please go ahead and just press the share button on your device on this particular episode so that you can share it. I would love to have at least 10 to 15 shares. Please do that right now, because this information that we just gave out can literally change your life. And let me tell you, people pay thousands of dollars for what we just shared right now. Absolutely. Oh, I know they do. Yes, Dr. Drowser knows they do too. Uh-huh. And we just gave it to you for free. We're not asking for any money. I'm just letting you know of the worth of what we have just received right now, because we're concerned about you, and we want to tackle this mental health crisis with success. We just don't want to tackle it and fumble the ball. I love football, and we're going into the
Uh, I
championships.
can't talk about that because see, I'm grieving my Buffalo Bills. I'm from Buffalo. My whole
Uh,
family is from Buffalo, so I'm kind of
um,
grieving. So that's kind of a
um,
sore subject for me
well, we,
right now. That's all right.
well,
Just
well,
pray for our sister.
well, we pat you in the back, but they should have played a little better defense in those 13 seconds.
Oh, okay. Now see, all right. So what was your point, Dr. Shepard?
My point is play until the whole game is done. That's what.
Okay, okay. I was like, "Where are you trying to go with this, sir?"
Oh yes. Oh yes. The game is not over just because it's 13 seconds and you scored a touchdown and you think that you
Oh,
got it.
well, things could change just like that, right?
Isn't it
So true.
something?
So true.
That's right.
Yeah.
13 seconds. He went down from the 25-yard
Okay.
line. Oh, okay. All right. I want to leave it alone. I'll leave it alone. But you don't want to fumble the ball. You want to keep playing defense for the whole entire game so that you can get the end result. And so this has been wonderful. I put the banner down at the screen, down at the bottom of your screen. If you're in need of mental health services, you heard me talk about the one-on-one services. Hit us up, Hope Health Systems. You can do a referral online, and we'll be able to help you. Again, this is for persons who live in the DMV area, Maryland, Virginia. We even have some people who come down from Pennsylvania for services. We want to make sure that we can service you. Dr. Draza, how can people reach out to you in
Yeah.
case they want to talk to you more?
Yes, well, I'm on social media, so on Instagram at Dr. Dr_E2K, and I am also at Catalyst Therapeutic Services. That one is a long email, so probably be easier just go to the website catalystnc.com.
Absolutely, absolutely. So or you can just look her up on social media, Google her, and you will find her name. This has been awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, my friend, and we look forward to seeing
Yeah,
uh, you all again. I'm looking forward to gearing up for the month of February. We'll be tackling mental health and what it means within the Black community. Dr. Draza, of course, will be back. Look for her. She typically is with me on the fourth Fridays.
yeah,
And yes, this has been awesome. Please be safe out there. For some people,
absolutely.
they're experiencing winter storms, and whatever weather you might be experiencing right now, that's cool. But we want to make sure that everyone is safe. We'll see you later on Ask
Hey,
the Doctors. Take
yes.
care.
Hey, happy Chinese New Year. The New Year does start over on February 1st, Chinese New
Oh,
Year. So happy New
okay.
Year.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Bye bye.
Take care.